Hello, welcome back to the channel. This is going to be a bit of a strange one. It is car related but kind of on a tangent. The TVR successfully passed its MOT, hurrah! Although I did notice when I took it out, upon taking up the drive, so as you release the clutch, there is a small clunking noise, which sounds like it might be the prop shaft. I've been under the car and looked at all of the diff and the drive shafts at the back. I can't find anything loose or wrong, but I suspect maybe the drive shaft is loose at the front. Now the problem with this is you can't really get to the drive shaft because there's a bloody great exhaust pipe in the way, and halfway down there's a big muffler that's on a steel plate, which makes things even harder. Now the thing is, I need to get the car up off the ground, take the exhaust off, and then I can have a good look at the drive from the gearbox all the way back to see if I can find what's making this noise. Now most people on YouTube will go out and buy a lift, 1,500 quid for a hydraulic lift to put in the garage. Well, I don't want to spend £1,500 on that because it'd be in the way all the time. I don't want to keep assembling it and dragging it back out and reassembling it. So while searching the YouTube universe, I found a thing called wheel cribs, which is what I'm starting to make here. So wheel cribs are essentially a structure made of 2x4s, which is what these are, screwed together and built up. So these are about sort of 5 high, so kind of up to here, and then you jack the car up, successively getting it higher, and then put the wheel cribs under each of the tyres, and these are strong enough easily to hold up, especially a TVR which weighs next to nothing anyway. Easy to take the weight, and the car is then a good foot off the ground, including then the ground clearance of the car, which is enough for you to get under it safely, fiddle about with stuff, take the exhaust off, and I've only spent, you know, 100 quid in wood and screws and my time. So that's the idea. We're going to build some of these. Now I've decided that my lengths of wood, so if we look at this, the wheel sits this way, and I've measured these as 12 inches across the wheel, so underneath the car, and then along with the side of the car I've done these 14 inches. So the tyre will effectively sit in this space here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make one and then probably jack the car up and try it and see how it fits, and then I'll make the other 3, or I'll adjust the size and then make 4 all the same size. You know, these are relatively cheap. I bought 6, I think. No, I think I bought 12 2x4s, which was about 70 quid. So I can afford to make a complete mess of this first one. It's not cost me too much money. So what I'm doing is I'm cutting these to 10 and these to 14, and then on the belt sander I'm just taking the edges off, just rounding, because this is CLS, which comes with rounded edges, and I'm just mimicking that on the ends so I don't get splinters when I use them. And then I'm using my framing square so I get these square, and then you just slowly build your way up. So I've got these first 4 screwed together, and you alternate where the screws are. So obviously they're there, the next 2 will be there and there, so you don't screw into a screw that's already there. So I'll build this up a bit more, and then we'll have a look what the final thing looks like. Okay, so you rejoin me minutes later when I've added a few more levels. They're the next 2 10 inches to go on. I'm wondering whether the bottom should be on 2 separate pieces of wood, or whether the bottom should be a flat piece, so it would be kind of like that. That makes more sense to me, having a, you know, a flat surface to distribute the weight. I mean, most of the weight's going to go straight down these points here. I'm also thinking about, at some point, having a piece in the middle, so that if I wanted to, I could support a jack stand. So it would be like that, and you get another 10-inch one. These would be 14s, but you'd have a platform so you could stand a jack stand on. Obviously there'd be pieces here and here. So I might get a jack stand and see how feasible that is. This might not be wide enough. Maybe not. Okay, we'll see as we go on. But I'm going to keep adding these lengths, and we'll come back when I'm up to the full proposed height, I think. Right, so it's now some time later, and here's what we've ended up with. So tyre will sit in there, and then it's supported by the weight going straight down these columns of wood. I say this should be easily strong enough to hold up the 200 and odd kilos that, you know, my car only weighs about 1,000 kilos. So if you divide that by 4, it's not a lot of weight. So what I need to do now is test this under the wheel of the car. Now that could be interesting, because it's going to have to get pretty high to sit on here. I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to do that without building maybe 2 and then building another 2. So I don't know. Well, you'll know what happened because it'll come next in the video. Okay, so I've come in the garage and I've got one of the 17-inch wheels for the car. The tyres on this were getting too old, and I was waiting for the tyres to come and then be fitted. So for the MOT I put the original wheels on, even though the tyres are old. They're in reasonably good nick, and the MOT doesn't have a limit on age of tyres, just on condition. So for the one-day trip to the MOT that was fine, but the car will have these on, so I think that'll be okay. What I might do is put some little like beads of wood either side. I mean, it's not like the car's going to go anywhere when it's up there, but I think that's high enough. So I'm just going to make 3 more of these, and I'm going to make some like beads cut on an angle like a wedge to fit either side, just in case, and I think that'll do us. So I'll probably come back when I've built the other 3, and then we can look at getting the car up off the ground and onto these stands. Right, you join me sometime later. I've got all 4 cribs made, and I've got a wheel on top just to show you how they work. I'm thinking now that what I might do is put a piece of wood in here like a wedge either side, because I've got lots of offcuts, just to give added security. I mean, this isn't really going anywhere, but I thought just for extra safety I'm going to cut a little wedgy bit just to make me feel better about it when I'm laid underneath it with all the weight of the car threatening to kill me. So I'm going to do that now. Right, I've had a little experiment. I've come up with these little triangles of wood, which I'm going to like glue and pin these either side. Just gives an extra margin of safety. Not that I think I really need it, but I'll use the tyre on each set and then put some wood glue underneath and just pin these down, and then we should be good to try getting the car off the ground using these, and that'll be the next part of the video. Okay, so we're now in the garage, and what I've been doing is I had some shelving and lots of other detritus down this side, and I've reorganised that to give me much more room down the side, because I need to be able to get the crib next to the wheel so that when I get the front and the back of the car up to the right height, I don't spend time running around trying to find it. I want to be able to slip it straight underneath and get the car on there as quick as I can. I don't think this is particularly unsafe, jacking the car up this high, as long as you're careful and use sensible techniques, which we'll go over in a minute when I try it for the first time. Right, so this is the view from the rear. So these are the 2 exhaust pipes. There's not a lot I can immediately see that would be safe to jack up on to get the car that high. And what I worry about is if I do the front, that will tip all this down to the ground, which gives me even less view of what's going on. I'll show you the front, and then I'll explain why I think I should do the front last. Okay, here we are round the front. The front looks reasonably easy. Where my fingers are here, so you can hear it. There's a big metal piece that goes across from one side of the chassis to the other, so that's perfect for putting a block of wood on and jacking up. Now, when I've watched videos in the States of people using these things, what they do is they get it up on axle stands front and back, to get it up off the ground, sort of 10 or 12 inches, and then they use a tall jack, which thankfully I've got, with a wood block on it, like a fence post or something like that, to push it up that last inch or two to get the cribs under the wheels. So I need to get this up on axle stands, front and back, in places where it's not in the way of me then using the jack to take it up for the second lift. At the front it's reasonably easy, there's places on the chassis where I can drop it down on axle stands. At the back it's not so great because there's a big expanse of boot floor, and then there is a little bit of chassis, but the exhaust's in the way, so I'm going to have a think about that, maybe jack the back up using the outriggers a bit and have another look underneath to see if I can find somewhere where I can safely put the axle stands on and get it up in the air. From there we'll move it up onto the cribs, and getting it off again is the reverse of doing that. You know, you would jack it up a little bit, take the cribs out, drop it down onto the axle stands, and then do that at the other end, and then you just jack it up a little bit to get the axle stands out, as you would normally if you're working on the car. So it sounds complicated. I suspect it'll be fine once we find some safe places to get it on the axle stands, and we just have to be careful that we're not placing ourselves in a position where if the car does fall it doesn't hit me and kill me. So, you know, a car is a car, so, you know, it can be replaced, I can't. So safety first, and we'll just take it nice and steady and go at it as a process. Whew. Sorry I'm out of breath. She's up on the cribs. Show you the back. I'll just show you these and then I'll go through how I did it. There. And here, and it's rock solid. Believe me, this is going nowhere. So to get it up there, I'd say it's still safe. At some moments it doesn't feel like it, so let's put it like that. So first thing I did was, at the front I got one axle stand on the chassis rail here, so it was up off the ground, because what you need is a jack with some blocks on. You can't possibly get them under the car at its normal height. I can only just get this jack under the car, so no chance with those blocks on. So I did that at the front. I then jacked it up at the back and got an axle stand on the back chassis leg, so it's a little bit up off the ground, mainly for access. So what I did next was, because the front was slightly off the ground, I made a little jig, which I'll now show you, which is down the back, because on this car my issue was that I can't really jack it up in the middle because all the exhaust's here. The chassis rail is there, and same on the other side there. So what do I do about this? So I made a little bracket which fits on the two chassis rails, and then you can jack it up in the middle where my thumb is, and it lifts the car clean up in the middle, lifts both sides at the same time. So I could easily get that side in, but I couldn't get this side completely up. It was like ½ an inch off. So I've got another cheapy Halfords jack, and I put a block in it and put it on the jacking point on the outrigger there, just to take it up that extra ½ inch. Dropped it on the back two cribs. Then down the front I lifted it up with the jack on that front frame rail with the two blocks in to get enough height, and I've managed to get it on the front too. So it's up in the air now, which means I can work on it quite safely. I can get to everything underneath just by laying on my little, I've got a little wheelie creeper thing. My plan is to take the exhaust off to check the prop shaft. I've got a little clunking noise on the take-up of the drive. I can't find anything wrong with these half shafts or the diff, so I suspect it might be the front of the prop shaft that may be a little bit loose. So I don't know, a bolt may even have fallen out. But to get to it, you can't see anything with the exhaust in the way, and the exhaust sits on that massive plate there with the 2 holes in. So I'm going to have to undo it at the front, take this plate off, and it looks like I may even have to take off this anti-roll bar at the back to actually get it on the ground, but I'll cover that in the next video. So I hope you've enjoyed this. I hope it's helpful to you. It's an interesting project, this. I can see these being very useful, and they're about £1,500 cheaper than buying a hydraulic lift, which then you have to keep somewhere. These things all stack up in the corner on top of each other, take up no room at all. So please like, subscribe, ring the bell, dance a jig. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you on the next video.